Grammar 2579, Yankee Bridge.
Yankee 2579, Dave, Silver Ground, thanks, Kilo.
2377 on Echo Kilo, going somewhere around 597.
77, Dave, Silver Ground, thanks, via Lima, Kilo 5, and hold short of Kilo 7.
All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. Listen, it's going to be your Monday sit rep. It's 11 a.m. Central Time coming to you from the great state of Texas. It is January 23rd, 2023. And without further ado, let's hop over here to our main board. As we kind of look at what's going on in the skies today, we're sitting at around 327. Average is 250 is kind of our baseline. So if we look at it by the numbers, you can take out 64 Tex 2s and 21 T38s. That's going to bring a number to about 245. So it is kind of around an average day. As you can see, West Coast is just getting spooled up. East Coast is cranking. So, all right, let's kind of break into what we have up and what's been going on. Got a lot to cover. I apologize for missing the Friday live. I actually had gotten a call from my doctor just about an hour and a half before I was scheduled to do the live, that told me that I needed to go immediately to the ER and get some blood. So that's why I had to postpone it. So again, apologies, but I am back, and we are going to get through it. So, all right, let's take a look at the watch list, see what we've got happening here. Got our usual military intelligence balloons that are up overhead watching us 24/7. And then we've got little, it looks like a Phoenix Air coming back and forth from one of the islands, and then a little Homeland Security. Now, Phoenix Air goes back and forth. It takes engineers to an island out there. And then we've got these little Texas DOT, Department of Transportation helicopters. One's working the border. One looks to be over near San Antonio. And then a little EC-45. Again, these are all Texas DOT birds. We watch them just because they're watching our border for the most part. So a lot of P-8s up. We'll look closer at that here in a minute when it comes to the sub-hunters. Some of the NOAA birds, you'll notice. We've got Homeland Security running some routes down there in the Caribbean. And then coming out of Puerto Rico, it looks like. And then let's see here. What else we got? Yeah, there's that NOAA bird. Remember, that's kind of common to see them down there in Florida. But those are your weather birds, right? They're out running routes. They do everything from mosquito spraying to weather mod to just tracking stuff in general. So, again, SAM flight there, that little Gulfstream 5. And then we've got a couple more P-8s. And then we do have a little white 757 200 there in the DC metro area. That gray bird is actually intelligence bird. And then that little C-135 you see just getting airborne out of Lincoln, Nebraska. That's kind of a common occurrence now. So we'll talk a little more about R-135s here in a minute. But this one, we actually have a B-703 that's going to be a joint star. That one maps battlefields. You can see he's running right up against the border there in Belarus. And then we've got an R-135 that's actually kind of headed out to that same area. And then this one, another R-135, Jake 11, as he runs kind of around the tip there, up near Russia. So getting a good look at what's going on up there north of Norway and those guys. So don't see anything else. I was kind of expecting to see some stuff going on there over Syria, but I'm not seeing any tracks for that. So that's going to be your watch list. Let's get into the heavies. A little more active over Europe than it is over the U.S. today. Remember, these are last 24-hour tracks, and those traces that you see run every 5 seconds. So it's a pretty complete picture. Notice we're dropping some stuff off there at the forward operating location there in Poland. And then we've got some stuff up near Finland, near Stockholm. And then that one way up north in Norway, which is It's way up there, pretty close to Russia again. And keep in mind, too, that we just had Jake 11. That's one we're just looking at running right around that general area, too. Then you can see the normal stuff coming out of the UK, and then we've got a little Belgium. Looks like that's an A400, and then another C-130. That's going to be Navy bird, and then we've got this Spain military bird kind of headed down over Morocco, headed southbound. But then we got these couple little Israeli C-130s up, hanging out of the area. We're going to look closer to Israel too here in a minute when we look at Ukraine and Syria. Then we've got that little Mambo 20 C-130J coming out of Iraq into looks to be Dubai. So, all right, over the U.S. side of the house, you can see we've got one. Looks like it's just over Tucson, headed eastbound. Very light, actually, for the heavy lift. So we kind of must be in between cycles here. A couple things going on there in North Carolina. Some long hauls coming inbound to the U.S. Back, looks like it's landing up there near Norfolk. So let's get over to the air refuelers. You can see Flashbang's headed to his beach house. Looks like they've got fighters up already hanging out over the area. And then you got some stuff going on over North Carolina. You can see this, the one over the beach house side, that's over the water. And then we've got a couple taking off here in the middle of the U.S. Numbers kind of light. It's about 8, I think, over the United States or so. Yeah, kind of light. We'll get over to Europe. You can see what's going on there, too, as well. Again, from a refueler standpoint, if you go back to the time when we had all this stuff happening, with the FAA system going down, you had 60-plus air refuelers up over the United States. That was a pretty mind-boggling number. These are kind of the normal numbers here. You can see doing a little refueling there off the coast of the UK. And then I've got several air refuelers kind of all headed in the same direction. If you notice there, one's kind of over Bulgaria and Constanta. The others are over Italy, but they're all kind of headed down towards the Mediterranean at the moment. So that's kind of an interesting data point for you. So, all right, let's get into the civilian intel. Disregard that long streak running across there like that. I think that's just a bad data feed. So happens from time to time. All right, civilian intel. Notice Mediterranean. We got a lot more looks over that. That right there is Benghazi that they're looking closely. Maybe why we have their refuelers headed down in that general direction. And then we've got stuff going on over Constanta. Very heavy traffic along the side of Moldova, as always. That's probably really looking at Crimea more so than Moldova, if I had to guess. And then over in Romania there, we've got a little activity. Again, looking along that border of Belarus. And then check this out. This is up over Stockholm, over the water, which is... interesting. What do you have up there? Maybe some subs? I don't know. But very, very interesting that it's over the water looking at stuff, or it could be looking at either side, more than likely to the eastern side there, which is over towards Russia. Then we get over to the U.S., and, of course, again, civilian military intelligence aircraft. Notice they're just beating a path down over D.C. So that ought to tell you all you need to know. They got eyes on somebody up there, and they're gathering data, the latest and greatest. All right, it's going to be your sub hunters. We're going to kick it off here, starting out in Japan and South Korea, but over there in the Asian region, again, sub hunters, right? So we haven't seen any of those in the past. Looks like that's a new thing for us. So. A little bit of work there up near Tacoma, Washington, and then something down south of San Diego, south of California, off of Baja. Again, sub hunters, and then this frenzy of mainly P8s, but we do have some P3s in the mix there, coming off of Jacksonville and then up the East Coast. So we get over to Europe. You can see we've got an interesting deal here. We've got one that's going. Looks to be inbound in land there. Trying to get a good look at that. It's north of Germany. My screen is a little choppy, hard to see. But then we got this stuff going off the northern side of the UK, both coastlines. So they are definitely looking for something. And then you get up here near kind of the coastline there of Norway, kind of tucked in. Same area. Remember, we had the R135 that kind of went around that little tip there and came back. So just a data point for you, but interesting nonetheless. And we back it up again over. It looks like it's in Germany, but it's really hard to get an eye on that. And then we've got these coming out of Portugal. Looks like they were doing a little work off the coastline of Portugal, and then into the interior over the Mediterranean. We'll look at that here in a second. Yeah, look at that. Then they run across this area up north of Crete and up over Romania and back. Remember, that's a sub-hunter. These aren't civilian or R135s. So, okay, that kind of stacks us up there. Let's look at the R135s. Now, this is over, we got over the Conus right here. Again, over North Texas. I always find that interesting. And one more time, they're running that hard line right up on the border of Arkansas, Oklahoma. Looking at something probably in that region, getting eyes on. And then we got some stuff off the East Coast, over the water, and then our regular stuff you see, except for that one running up over North Dakota. But you start getting up into Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, you start getting into the silo area. So they could just be doing some calibration stuff, depending on the type of R135. Remember, some of these are going to be sniffers, and some of them are going to be just regular. You know, they could be electronic suite. They could be all kinds of different things. Very, very, in terms of just their capabilities, super duper over the top of what they can all do. So, again, notice running to the right of Belarus, and yeah, just keeping it real over there in Europe. So, all right, let's get back over to our mini board. Okay, so we looked at the R135s. We've looked at the civilian intels. We looked at the sub-hunters. Let's get into what's going on in the world. First up, we got the Coast Guard monitoring a Russian spy ship that's on patrol off of Hawaii. Now, I will tell you, from living out in the South Pacific, the Russians are not backward about running right up on your doorstep with their surveillance ships. We had one, we called it Brand X. This is probably called the same thing. I mean, we just call them Brand X because they just, there they are. You can see them. They run those right up, and they can listen in on anything and everything. And in Kwajalein, the way we would get rid of them was actually turn the shuttle tracking radar towards them, and we'd basically fry their equipment, and then we'd get a bill in the mail for, you know, replacing everything. So kind of like an EMP, I guess. But yeah, so they do it pretty regularly now that they're off the coast of Hawaii. It's just the reason there is a lot more attention paid to this is because of the, you know, all the rift that's going on between us right now. So nonetheless, you see these sometimes off of the East Coast, right? They'll end up down there in Cuba. But it looks like Hawaii they're watching. That's important because if you go to Hickam, you've got, you know, F-22s and a whole bunch of high-tech stuff in there. So, all right. Now, speaking of R135s, we talked about 2 weeks ago about an R135 that ran down there north of Caracas. This is another one. This is a WC-135R called a Constant Phoenix that was taking air samples off of South America, and they're basically baselining the radiation stuff. But I didn't catch this one unless it was the same one that we saw up here near Caracas. But nonetheless, it is definitely one to keep an eye on. Notice it doesn't have any of the doghouses that we see on some of the others. So it's a little different type of aircraft. But yeah, I guess you don't need them to do that. But there's a little, you can see the thing hanging off the side there. It looks to be your sniffer that's pulling in the air stuff. So, all right. So we just keep an eye on those. Now let's get over to the cyber side of the house real fast. You can see we got our red streaks back And we are getting, once again, peppered. If you look at the legend on this, the reds are the attacks. These yellows are infections. And then the little white dots are spam. But you could see they are back at it again nonstop. We got two areas that are getting very, very, I mean, a lot more attention than others. You got the one popping out here on the West Coast too, but central U.S. and then up here it looks like it's in kind of the Michigan, Wisconsin, Chicago kind of area. Hard to tell from this map, but all right. And then this is going to be your other one. This is actually, check out the number up there, 18 million attacks just today alone. Somebody down in Dominican Republic is getting a little attention, it looks like, from the U.S. And same thing in Spain and Bulgaria. We look to be on the offensive here today, which is interesting. Normally it's all inbound, but from this look at it over on Checkpoint, looks like we're doing all the stuff ourselves. So, all right. Now, this is going to be our GPS jam map, and it's important we just continue to watch this because this kind of tells you, like I said, it tells a story of where things are being jammed up. Notice that they fluctuate from time to time. Now, recently we had it out here at Groom Lake and some of the other areas we were looking at today. It's let's see what we've got. This is Groom Lake area right here, area 51. But these are two other areas that are not. And looks like they don't want any interference in that general area, so they've shut it down. However, they're doing this. Same thing here on the border. And here also, that is probably near that base where we have all the surveillance stuff that runs in and out south of Tucson. Then Mexico, I find it interesting. They don't have any kind of jam going on except for down here around Mexico City. And that is, that's super high and then medium. Okay. Now, let's get over here to the Europe and kind of we'll look a little bit more at down here into Israel, etc. And then we'll get into some of the details going on around this, around these areas as well. So notice this stuff. Constanta is an area that we have a big presence in. Why do they need the GPS all jammed up? Interesting. And then you've got this stuff even all the way down into Istanbul. But these are really, this is over the water. To have GPS jammed up, that's a pretty interesting deal there. Maybe it's protecting us, I would imagine. Remember, this is Russia right here, Crimea. And then Ankara down into Turkey. And then some stuff going on here, north kind of, this is north into Lebanon, into Syria. Then notice, too, down here in the West Bank area, they've got a little bit more elevated. And then out over the water, I always find that interesting. Notice there's nothing over the Gaza Strip. Zero. Okay. That's kind of an interesting data point for us. All right. And then let's see what else we got out here in Iraq. This, I think, is, let me back up. That's Baghdad here. And that could be the green zone. I'm not 100%. But then out here in Armenia, Russia's got a lot of stuff getting jammed. Right? And then you get up here into this other part. Remember, this is Russia. That R-135 we saw come right over here, out over the water and back. This area is jammed up too. All right. So let me just make sure we're hitting stuff. All right. Let's get into Flashbang real fast. Talk about what he's got going on. This is Monday the 23rd. Looks like he is departing the beach. So he was at the beach over the weekend, I guess. So... and he's coming back to the White House. All right, so that's why you got the fighters up over that general area. Let's take a look. Now, remember, you heard the story about Flashbang and old Corn Pop. He was a bad dude, right? This I always find interesting because he brags about how he grew up in a black church. Check this out, man. This is the funniest thing. It reminds me of kind of Steve Martin in The Jerk. If you've ever seen that movie, he also grew up in a black church, but he had no rhythm, right? And so check this out. This is kind of comical.
Come on, clap your hands, all you people. Power to God with a voice of triumph.
a pretty good laugh right there. He doesn't even know what to do with his hands. He's just, making funny faces. So, in true flashbang fashion, I can imagine what he said when he got up to the stage, though. He's probably just throwing out word salad left, right, and center. So, but yeah, that's going to be flashbang. Yeah. So, nonetheless. All right. Now, speaking of flashbang, let's talk a little bit about his how he's doing. Let's see here. You got a major border city that is on the brink of collapse because of the immigration policies by the current administration. Interesting. We'll kind of look at some of the data points within here. We've had around 5 million migrants crossed through the southern border since he took office. And notice here that the Border Patrol in the Yuma sector alone has had a 171% increase in crossings from 2021 and 2022. And then this is the one that really kind of scares you a little bit. 1.2 million illegal migrants have escaped Border Patrol. That means they are just free-range chickens here running through the United States. So not a good news story, but let's see. If we look at what's going on with the flights today from the immigrant machine, kind of get in a little closer, you can see we've got some stuff coming out of the U.S. down to, looks like Bogota, again, Swift Air. Let's just take a look. Most of the stuff headed from border towns. We had some stuff actually going up into the U.S. earlier this morning. So it looks like El Paso to Alexandria, 72-hour holding facility. We got this one coming out of Guatemala back up to Valley. I'm praying that one's empty. Valley down to Puerto Rico, and then this one coming out of Birmingham, Alabama, down to down near Caracas. So, all right. So hopefully they're exfilling people, but we do know we've seen them come interior to the U.S. as well. So, all right, here's one for you. The U.S. is now, this is going to be your Bahika moment. U.S. announces a $2.5 billion in new weaponry munitions for the Ukraine. And the package does not feature Western battle tanks. So this is kind of an interesting deal. It does include 90 Stryker armored personnel carriers, 59 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, some Avenger air defense systems, and large and small munitions, etc. That's coming from the Pentagon. So it's got still got some things that do some damage, but it's interesting. This is what I think kind of the double speak that we see going on with the media today. This here says, this is from the War Zone, no Western tanks for Ukraine announced after allies meet in Germany. So evidently NATO all got together and thought this is probably going to be a really bad idea if we put tanks on the ground because then we're basically engaged in this war, which they weren't wrong. However, I will say that we've had other articles that actually said we've already sent 100 U.S. tanks in that were being modified. They were older units that had been upgraded and fixed up just basically enough to, take on the Russian stuff. So I don't know where we are with this. It seems like double speak to me. It sounds like we have put tanks in to the theater, but we don't want Russia knowing that we put tanks into the theater, although they probably already see them. But it was probably just a bad PR move for us. And so they basically just, step back on what they originally said. So who knows the real story? You stop for a minute and you think, well, what are we even doing there? This isn't our war. But the reality is it is our war because we've got the CIA who has a stronghold in Ukraine and has had one since after World War II. So that's why we're there, is because we've got so many assets in play. We're laundering money through the Ukraine, through their bank system. And so, that's why we're there, folks. All right. So here's one for you. Russia to boost troops in the West, expanding army to 1.5 million people. So, yeah, we just saw them announce they were actually getting ready to do another draft of another 500,000 people to fight this war. So, and probably the future war that's coming. So, okay. Now let's talk. We were about to get into, we'll get into this in a second. Let's go take a look at the maps here, what's going on, Middle East, Ukraine, etc. Starting out here, let's look, we'll begin in Syria. because this is one we were just talking about, or we're going to talk about. You're going to see that the U.S. Army actually captured some ISIS dudes. And then we've got some Turkish forces fighting up north. Notice the drone activity. Russian forces and government reopened the military base in Aleppo. So we've got Russian presence at Aleppo. And then you've got, here's some ISIS dudes killed down on the border there at the southern tip of that. So actually, we've got an article that talks a little bit about this. U.S. forces capture ISIS members. It says they got 3 of them. I don't know what we're really doing there to begin with. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me other than the fact that you've got Russia. And remember, we were pretty heavily fortified within Syria. Obama backed us out with his hard red line, remember? And then we had mass immigration issues going on throughout the as I get over to the wrong board there, sorry. Yeah, this is the only reason I think we still have a footing in the area is because Russia, Turkey, and Iran are all in that same sandbox. So very interesting, but nonetheless, all of this for 3 guys, right? It's just, we stood them up, so we ought to know exactly where they all are, right? I mean, if you go back and look at No Name McCain and Obama and everybody else, remember there is proof that we are actually the guys that stood up ISIS, aka ISIL, which is for the Levant. It was planned. It's how you launder money in 2 countries as well. So, all right, so we've got that going on. That's Syria. Again, it is it's heating up over there, hotter than a junkie spoon. You get into Israel, you can see the area that you see that's just like the long string of stuff running up through the center of that. That is going to be, that's the West Bank, right? Palestinian Authority. And you can see lots of activity where you see little frowny faces. That's where people have been killed. But it runs north to south, almost all the way up most of Israel there. All right. Then we get over here to the Ukraine map. And you can see we've got, it looks like to be a detonation down in the very bottom tip. That's going to be Crimea. Remember, they've got air defense missiles in that area too, but there was a loud explosion that took place there. And then, of course, we've got all those little blue shields are locations where artillery rounds are making its way into the interior of Ukraine and not just on the border. It's just same story, different day, right? Continues to be kind of where this all continues to go, I guess. But notice the red dots to the north of Kiev and even further north there. Definitely Belarus is going to get engaged in this with Russia. They've already said they are kind of partnered with Russia on this deal. So, okay, back over to our main deal. Sorry about that. I didn't realize my screen was black. It had already gone away, and I was continuing to talk. So, all right, let's take a look at the NOTAMs. Again, the yellow stuff, the darker color inside of that is going to be higher turbulence. The yellow is the lighter turbulence, and then as it fades out to kind of white, that's light turbulence. Notice, though, again, looks to be another storm system that's coming in. Let's see where it goes. Looks like it's going to be headed north of Seattle, headed up into Canada, which will probably all turn to snow. So, but if we look at this in general, just notice we've got some danger boxes south of California. I got some stuff off of the San Francisco area, some things going to the north there that typically is missile related. This, you're starting to get into kind of the HARP area up here in Alaska. And then everything else looks to be kind of normal. I don't see too much. This is going to be space ops. This is going to be your regular stuff over DC. And then you get down off of Florida. Looks like we've got some danger boxes here going on. It's not showing as space ops as a TFR, just as a regular box. So then off of over here in the Gulf as well. And then let's back up. We'll get over here to this side of it. Notice big activity going on off of Iceland. This looks to be looks like it's a military exercise there. And then again, Ukraine, bright red, Russia, bright red. And let's see, still have this. This was Virgin Atlantic. Don't know why the box is still there, but that was a launch box for Virgin Atlantic. Looks like they've got, they probably, what they did when they put the TFR out there, or the NOTAM, sorry, they don't get TFRs in Europe. When they put the NOTAM out there, it was probably a window in case they had weather, etc., a launch window, and so they just, the box hasn't expired yet, so be my guess, okay? Then we get up off of the UK. Notice got some operations, mill ops going on there. A lot of stuff going on around Denmark. And anything up here? Yeah, it looks like the Ruski's got some stuff going on up here in this side of the world. So, all right, that's going to be NOTAM. Let's get over to Biggs Army Airfield. Let's see if we have any activity. Doesn't look like we just got regular stuff. We do have a BE-20 coming out of Yuma, but nothing to speak of. Let's go look at what the arrivals were over the weekend. Looks like we had some stuff right here. We had a Camber flight and a Southwest Airlines that came in from Sarasota, and then this one came in from Baltimore, Washington. Those are usually troops. I don't know about this one from Sarasota. That actually could have been a collective. They may have had some immigrant stuff that they're bringing in and going into the immigration camp there at Biggs. But let's look at departures. See if it tells us a story here. And that Camber went to Perot. Don't have eyes on it from there. We're going to click on it in a second to see where it went. But this one went down to Houston. So it maybe it flew in specifically. Maybe it was empty. Could have been a deadhead, and then took some folks down to Houston. You just can't tell. So, but let's check out this Camber flight. I want to see if we've got any idea where it went from there. El Paso. So it came over here to Alliance. That was on Sunday. And it looks like it stopped there. So I don't see it leaving Alliance. All right. All right. Let's get over here to Ramstein and see what we've got. We've got a Camber flight coming in from Prince Sultan Air Base. And then we have, let's see. Oh, there's one for you. That's one of your graybeards. That's your agency birds coming in from Stuttgart. So these are the ones, usually that G3 is the one we see go down into Africa and do some interesting things down there and then back and forth. So usually tied to CDC. All right. So let's see where we've got this thing leaving. Looks like it went to Crete from there. So that's definitely agency related. We know we got operations that run in and out of that area from an agency perspective, and a handful of Reach aircraft. All right. All right. Over here to Poland. See if we've got any activity on the board. This is going to be one of your forward operating locations or forward operating bases there in Poland, just to the left side or the west side of Belarus. And I'm not seeing anything. Remember, this is commercial traffic for the most part. We do get some here, like this Polish military. Same thing here. Every once in a while, we'll see Camber flights. When it was getting hot and heavy, and we were increasing our numbers up to the 100,000 level with the NATO numbers in Europe, we saw a ton of Camber flights and Atlas Air flights, et cetera, going in and out of there. So we just keep our eye on it. And then one Camber flight. Looks like it is coming out of Chicago O'Hare, maybe. And then let me back this up. I don't see it on my map anywhere. And then we've got this one that looks like it's at 34,000 feet leaving Bahrain. So the Chicago O'Hare one, not seeing it. All right. So now let's get over here to, this is going to be Omni. And I did have one Omni flight that actually was leaving DC. It looks like it had a maintenance issue because or maybe a maintenance checkout ride. I don't know. But nonetheless, you can see it actually do a little turnaround and come back into it was RTB. So they don't operate out of that location. So that's probably, it could have been a maintenance flight, or it could have had a maintenance issue, one or the other, and that's why it came back in. So look at the speed and the altitude on that flight, though. Looks like it was definitely deviations in speed for sure. Wow, it's pretty crazy. That looks a lot like an ops check for a flight, maybe a checkout flight after it's maybe had an engine change or something. So, all right, let's move on. So this is going to be the Brits. Looks like they've got one flight coming out of Cyprus and headed back maybe to the UK. It looks like it's at 43,000 feet, getting up above that weather there as it approaches Italy. They may just be coming around that side of it into the UK. Then we've got one airborne. This one here, I believe, is at 36,000 feet. This going to be, that's not Jake 11, but it's going to be an R135, if I'm not mistaken. So kind of light for the Brits today. All right. Then let's get over here to the Ruskies. I'm telling you, we have not seen hardly any Ruski flights. They must know I'm tracking them, and they've since gone completely dark. So don't get nothing on the board for them. We'll just, I'll look at it beforehand, and then if it's nothing, I won't even bother showing it, all right? Then we get over here to Guam. This is going to be Anderson Air Base out in the Asian Pacific area. And it looks like we got an Atlas Air coming in. That was a 747-400 from Hawaii. And then from there, it looks like it went to Seoul, Korea. Had a couple, we got a Navy bird here. That's going to be a Navy logistics bird. And then these other ones I don't really know. Nothing really. So, all right. And then a scheduled departure, that one, another Atlas Air. It's actually a different Atlas Air. Looks to be headed to Tokyo. So let me just make sure I covered everything on my list here. I believe I did. Yeah, so we should be good to go. Listen, that's going to do it. And we will see you back here on Wednesday, God willing. So in the meantime, keep that powder dry and stay frosty. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworksus.com.